there, I'm Presley, and today I will be going over my overall thoughts on episode 33 of the Bleach 1000-Year Blood War arc. Now this episode covers chapters 629, the very beginning of 630, and a few things that are very briefly shown in chapters a bit further down the line. Now, the new ending poem for this episode is from the perspective of Mayuri, which is interesting, and I'll get into the reason why later. This episode, the entire second half of it was just new content. That is how insane this episode was. We of course get to see all of the Soul Reapers that have gone up to where the Royal Palace formerly was. We get to see them all move out and start heading on their way to where they're each going, you know? We see where Mayuri has separated himself from the group on their trip over there. And, you know, he has Nemu with him, Kenpachi, Ikaku, Yumichika, Hanataro. Of course, we do get to see the scene of Liebero, shooting down countless Soul Reapers that are making their way to the castle where Yubaha is. Let's get into the big thing from this episode in terms of new content that I love to see. We got an entirely new fight. We got to see Uryu and Renji fight each other, which is very exciting when you consider the history of these two characters. More specifically, the history these two characters have. They both met very early on in the series, and this is technically the second time we've seen them fight while being on rival sides. You know, back when Uryu tried to stop him from taking Rukia back to the Soul Society, you know, before Ichigo shows up. So it's actually interesting to see them both, like, properly fight with both of their powers fully developed now. That's so amazing to see. I was losing my mind watching this fight, which should be to no one's surprise. You know, since Uryu is one of my favorite characters, you know, he's up there in my top 10. So I'm really happy that we're actually getting to see so much new Uryu content. Of course, we get to see Renji use his new and improved Bankai again against Uryu, and, like, he's not holding back against Uryu in this fight. Of course, we also get to see Uryu's Volstandish again, which I love how it looks visually. I'm going to mention that every time it appears, no matter how many times it does appear, because I love the way it looks visually. Like, they literally announced a figurine with this exact design, like, not even a day after the episode that originally unveiled it aired. It's that good of a design. Ultimately, Uryu does win the fight by, you know, putting a hole into Renji's chest, you know. You know, he seems to be going for a theme amongst how he ends his fights recently. And, you know, this has interesting implications, because in the manga, Renji ends up being involved in one of the fights that are going on, you know, in this last stretch of the story. And this is where we really have to bring up the interesting implications overall of what's going to genuinely be changed from the manga to the anime in terms of the overall story we get, the overall picture we end up with at the end of the 1000-Year Blood War. Because we're reaching the point in the manga where where a lot of the fights ended up getting very rushed through, and some of them, and, you know, a lot of them really needed more time to breathe and flow properly. You know, we see Askin run into Grimjow, and, you know, obviously that ends up being a bit of a thing with him chasing him. Ultimately, Grimjow ends up paralyzed temporarily because of Askin's ability. You know, he's basically poisoned. Which, you know, not a good thing. And then, of course, we see Ichigo arrive. Now, going back to what I said previously about the Mayuri poem, the reason why this interests me so much is because next episode's title is Baby Hold Your Hand. Without spoiling the fight itself too much, those are the chapter titles of a fight that involves Mayuri from the 1000-Year Blood War arc. And I only say this is interesting because, in terms of things happening in the same order they do in the 1,000-Year Blood War manga, this isn't the next thing that happens in the manga, which means we're skipping ahead. Which, this is interesting, because if they're rearranging the order that certain things happen in this core, it makes it really hard to guess where we're going to end on, you know? Overall, this was a very exhilarating episode. Fantastic, splendid even. I loved it. Well, I guess I'll end the review here. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a fantastic week, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!